All right, we're located here today in North Dakota, Dickinson, North Dakota. And we've been invited and we feel that we've been treated with great hospitality, as we know you will. And Alice Lee,
Hi.
so good to be here with you. Could you tell us a little bit about your museum and are people welcome to come? I know they are. You tell us about it, will you? Thank you.
Thank you. We're glad to have you here today, and we welcome you to Dickinson, North Dakota. This is our newest attraction to the city of Dickinson, the Dakota Dinosaur Museum, located on the Museum Center grounds. We're just off I-94 in the southwestern part of North Dakota. You're located viewing now the Dakota Dinosaur Museum, which is the entrance to the Museum Center. In the Dakota Dinosaur Museum, you will see the Tyrannosaurus cast that is behind me. You will see 10 full-scale dinosaurs, 4 sculptures, 4 skeletons, and 2 real dinosaur skeletons in the exhibit area. You will also be able to see 56 cases of rocks and minerals, seashells, as well as a 32-million-year-old rhinoceros and a 10,000-year-old bison that has been excavated in this area. Also on your visit, you will be able to visit the Yoakum Museum. It is a museum with local artifacts, Indian exhibits. Your next stop will be the Museum of the Pioneer Machinery. Lots of Pioneer machinery from the area has been donated to this facility operated by the Stark County Historical Society. And finally, you will be able to visit the Prairie Outpost Park. On that tour, you will be able to visit Scandinavian Stabor, a rock house from Germans from Russia, a pioneer church, a depot, one-room school, and a store. All of these are available to the public for a modest fee of $5. The hours for the Museum Center are 9 to 6, 7 days a week during the summer months. During the winter months, we'll be open from 9 to 5 and hope to be hosting many, many school groups during the winter months. I would like to introduce Larry League, Associate Professor of Dickinson State University. He is also the technical assistant for the Dakota Dinosaur Museum, and he will now take you on a tour of what you will see in our wonderful museum here.
Thank you. Museum you're about to visit here is the Dakota Dinosaur Museum. It is an earth science museum with a dinosaur emphasis. The project really started back in 1987 when we got the idea to build a museum. It really got going in about 1989 when we formed a task force to look into the feasibility of a museum, whether we could afford it or not. That task force went around and visited several museums throughout the United States and Canada. We determined that we thought a dinosaur museum in Dickinson was feasible. And so we've been working about 5 years to get the museum, the finances raised and the building built, so that what you're going to see now is really about a 7-year project and just opened a few months ago. So keep in mind it is an earth science museum. The focal point is dinosaurs, and then surrounding that you will be seeing rocks and minerals and seashells and invertebrate fossils and mammals and all types of wonderful exhibits. So we'll begin taking an individual tour of each section of the museum. The central display in the Dinosaur Museum, we have 10 full-scale dinosaurs. This is a rather unique exhibit, I believe, because it represents the whole time continuum of dinosaurs. So the very first one up here at the front is Coelophysis and represents the Triassic period of time, about 225 million years ago. There are a few dinosaurs a little bit older than this that come from Argentina, but this is the most well-known early dinosaur. This is a full-scale sculpture that represents the bones that we have found in New Mexico. And we believe the coloration and everything is as realistic as we can make it, because Coelophysis probably lived at the edge of the forest and probably blended in with the forest setting. And so we have him colored a darker green with a lighter undercoat. So that's the Triassic period of geologic time, about 225 million years ago. And then out here a little bit farther into the exhibit, we have two grayish colored full-scale dinosaur skeletal casts. The one standing up is Allosaurus. He was the big meat eater of the Jurassic period about 150 million years ago. And then down below, laying in the sand, is Stegosaurus. He was a very gentle plant eater. So those two, we have a meat eater and a plant eater of the Jurassic time period. And of course, we tried to pick out skeletons that the kids know very well, and Stegosaurus is one of the most famous with the spines, plates going down the back, and Allosaurus was the biggest meat eater of that time. The exhibit itself, we got the idea from a museum in Price, Utah, to have a nice sand base and then build pedestals and put in some vegetation to make it look fairly realistic. One of the most common questions asked is, what kind of sand is this and where did it come from? Because it's almost white in color and it looks very pure. And that's exactly what it is. It's a very pure quartz with all the impurities removed. And basically it's sandblasting sand. There's 22 tons, I believe, of sand in here, all hauled in from Minnesota in a big tanker. So it really added to the exhibit. This was a suggestion made by a local business firm that was donating the material, and he knew that it existed and suggested that we use this rather than just regular river sand, and has greatly enhanced our exhibit. As you go farther back into, or more recent into geologic time then, looking down through the time continuum, we have a Deinonychus out there in the middle that's got big claws on it, and he's in a running position. Deinonychus was a dinosaur that lived about 90 million years ago. It comes from Montana. One of the reasons we wanted to use that for display, number one, it was discovered in 1964, which is not all that long ago. And prior to that time, no one knew it existed. It was found about 200, 250 miles from here, so it's a fairly local type of dinosaur. It was also the first dinosaur that started the controversy whether dinosaurs were warm-blooded or not. So people are always interested in warm-blooded versus cold-blooded. And this is the dinosaur that started it all. So this is an 11-foot full-scale sculpture of that dinosaur. And then it also represents the transition between the Jurassic period and the Cretaceous period. There are not very many dinosaurs that we have found 90 to 100 million years ago. It was just a time that the deposition apparently wasn't right, and they're kind of scarce. Then we get into the late Cretaceous dinosaurs down at the end, which represents about 65 million years ago. This is the material that I collect in. These dinosaurs basically come from the Hell Creek Formation, the very last of the dinosaurs. So we have Triceratops laying down in the sand there. That is a full-scale, real Triceratops that I found in 1987. And we spent 2 years excavating it. We removed about 30 feet of overburden with a bulldozer. The first year we dug with pickaxe and shovel, and got about half of the skeleton out, and it got to be so much overburden we decided to come back the next year with a bulldozer and excavate off the rest of the material, and then removed the rest of it by hand. So it took 2 summers, about 50 days of excavation to get that complete skeleton. It is one of the most complete Triceratopses from a single site. Okay, so if you go to places like Smithsonian, which has a wonderful Triceratops mounted on display, but a lot of that is a composite that comes from different sites. A lot of it is made up of plaster to fill in. It was collected a long time ago. If you visit the American Museum in New York, it's a wonderful skeleton, but it's a composite of 4 different sites. It's not all one skeleton. The other one that's on display is in St. Paul, Minnesota, also a composite skeleton. But this one all came from one individual site. So that makes it very important scientifically. It's the first time, I believe, that we have all the vertebrae in the backbone so that we know exactly how many came from that site, from that particular animal. This animal is also interesting because it has a lot of paleopathologies. This animal was diseased when it died. It had arthritis, it had swelling on its toes, its vertebrae down the tail were all not smooth but very rugose and arthritic. So there are a lot of interesting things on this animal that we will eventually probably publish and get in the literature. Up above that is a skeletal cast of Albertosaurus. It is also late Cretaceous. We have an animal in North Dakota and Montana that is similar to this. It's either Albertosaurus or something very similar. At least we do find bones of something that size, but we don't have a complete skeleton of it. So we do find a lot of teeth, and those teeth look very much like Albertosaurus. So we put it on display to at least show that we have that size of a meat-eating dinosaur from our area. And then finally out at the end there we have Thescelosaurus, a small plant-eating dinosaur, fairly rare. Most people never heard of Thescelosaurus. It's a little plant eater about 9 feet long. But the reason we put the skeletal cast in here is because we did find part of a Thescelosaurus, and it's on display over here in the other part of the exhibit. And it's probably about the 4th most complete skeleton of that animal anywhere in the world. So we do have a lot of rare and unusual things in this museum. It's just not something you would see every place else. We also have Ornithomimus down there, a big 11-foot, what we call the ostrich dinosaur. It's not related to the ostrich, but it looks like an ostrich. And for anybody that saw the movie Jurassic Park, there they had the herd of Gallimimus running across the plains, and the people had to run and get out of the way. Well, it's a cousin of Ornithomimus. They look very much alike. And then finally we have Dromaeosaurus down at the end there. He was about a 6-foot meat eater, very vicious. These guys roamed in packs like wolves and would gang up on a bigger dinosaur and be able to bring those larger dinosaurs down. So that's a full-scale sculpture. And then the very last one, Edmontosaurus, is down there lying in the sand. That's a real dinosaur. We only have part of it on display right now, but if you go to the laboratory and look into the window, you'll see the work that I did this summer. I'm working on the backbone, the vertebrae, and once we get those done, we'll bring them out and put them in place, and as each bone gets done, it'll come out and be put into place so people can come back and watch the dinosaur take shape. So that's kind of an interesting thing. People are interested in coming back and watching the progress of that dinosaur. So this represents from 225 million to 65 million years ago. 65 million years ago, the dinosaurs became extinct for whatever reason. There are 100 different theories, and nobody has been able to prove exactly why. But we do know the climate was changing. Keep in mind that all these dinosaurs, throughout all their time period, the climate was very lush, semi-tropical, probably didn't freeze. You know, they had a real nice time. And then as the Rocky Mountains and other places in the world began to uplift and the elevations got higher, the climate got colder, it got more arid, colder in the wintertime. A lot of these dinosaurs couldn't adapt. As the climate changes, the vegetation changes. And these dinosaurs were used to eating very soft plants. Okay? So right up until the very end, all of these dinosaurs, all they could do with their jaw is just up and down motion. They couldn't move around and move their jaw to grind tough grass. They just pulled the plants off, the leaves off the trees and swallowed them. As the plants got coarser and coarser, as the grasses started coming in, the grass has silica in it. These dinosaurs couldn't eat that stuff. But Triceratops and Edmontosaurus down at the end adapted a chewing mechanism for grinding. So that's why they were able to last longer. But finally, at the end, either the climate got too bad, or perhaps there was a meteor impact, or many other possibilities. They finally became extinct. Okay, I just talked about the 10 full-scale dinosaurs here in the Dakota Dinosaur Museum. One other exhibit that I want to point out in the main dinosaur display is that we have a real Tyrannosaurus rex hind leg. It is laying down here in the sand, and if you were to mount it, stand it upright, it's about 12 feet to the hip socket on a Tyrannosaurus rex. It is probably one of the 10 or 12 existing real Tyrannosaurus rex hind legs in existence. So it is very valuable scientifically. By displaying the bones in the museum the way we have, it allows the tourists to see the real bones, and yet they're far enough away from them, they can't touch them, can't damage them. So we have protected the scientific integrity of the bones and still retain the educational value by allowing people to visit it and see the real bones. So by having this mezzanine here and being 3 feet up above the bones, you can look down on them. You still feel you're close to the exhibits, and yet you can't actually touch them. About the Tyrannosaurus rex leg bone, people come to a museum and they see the bones and all the dinosaurs are wonderful, but they don't get to hear the personal stories about how we obtained these bones. This Tyrannosaurus rex leg, I had found it a few days earlier, and it was far too large and we needed more equipment and everything, and so my wife and I came back to get this leg bone on our anniversary. And of course, out in the Badlands, you don't have paved roads, it's all dirt and everything, and if it rains it gets a little muddy. And out in the Badlands here in North Dakota, we have what's called bentonite. And 1/10 of an inch on bentonite and four-wheel drive doesn't do you any good. Anyway, we went out to get this bone. It had apparently rained the night before, and we got to a crossing where water obviously runs across the road. Well, it looked like it was dry on top, and it was a sandy area. And I had my Suburban, and we went across it, got out in the middle, and the Suburban just sank right up to the floorboards. So that started out the day. We spent 2 hours digging out the Suburban with shovels. We had to go over and chop off some sagebrush to put under the tires to try to get out. Well, after 2 hours, we finally got out and went on to the site to get the bone. We spent all day casting the leg bone. Then we had to go back and stay in a motel overnight. Came back the next day, flipped the bone over then, put the cast on the other side. And so it is a very long process, and sometimes you end up with more problems than what you anticipated. But it's all the part of being a dinosaur hunter. Okay, in beginning the tour of the Dinosaur Museum, all the exhibits that surround the main exhibit of the dinosaurs represents various forms of earth science, such as rocks and minerals and seashells, etc. But as you come into the museum, one of the things that interests the kids particularly is that here on my left is a real dinosaur bone that they can go up to and touch. And I don't know why, but they get a big kick out of touching and feeling a real dinosaur bone. So it's not a fake or anything. It does have a coating of glue on it to protect it, but it's exactly as we found it in the field. So they would certainly want to see that. Also, because our emphasis in the museum is dinosaurs, even though we'll be looking at rocks and minerals and various components of earth science, what we have tried to do is to tie the dinosaur theme to the whole museum. So on the walls are photographs that I've taken out in the field in my expeditions. So these are all photographs of the dinosaur-bearing strata, and those are on the walls all the way around the museum. So in this particular section that we're going to start looking at here is the rocks. And so what I have done is talked about the rocks that you see out in the dinosaur area and the minerals that you see in the dinosaur-bearing strata. And we tie that theme in as we go around the museum. So these are original photographs that I've taken in the field and do represent the Hell Creek Formation where we collect all of our dinosaurs. Okay, on the right over here then is our rock section. One of the things in creating the exhibits, I've been to many museums, and it's probably the old idea, most museums are changing now, but I did not want it to be a textbook. kind of experience. That's rather boring. And so we wanted to not put every single rock that is in existence on display, but to pick a few colorful ones, a few interesting ones, something that was unusual. And so that's what we've tried to do with these exhibits. And rocks are divided into three basic categories: igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic. And so we have one case of each, and just a few selected samples that people can look at. So we've tried to, like I say, make it interesting. Also to the right over here, beginning the mineral display, we have the fluorescent minerals. These are the minerals that glow in the dark under ultraviolet light. I've seen this type of display in several museums. I thought it was great. I knew people would enjoy it. And one of the things about western North Dakota out here is an awful lot of people in North Dakota don't travel very much. And so they've not had the opportunity to see most of the things that are in this museum, and particularly a fluorescent mineral display. They're basically the same wherever you go, but most of the people around here have not seen it, so we wanted to include it in our Earth Science exhibit. So as they go through, you have to go into a dark room, and as you go in there, the minerals will glow in the dark. One of the problems I've always observed with fluorescent mineral displays is that the ultraviolet light will be on for 10 seconds or so. You see the minerals glowing in the dark, and then all of a sudden the white light comes on. And all of a sudden you kind of take them back, and your eyes got to adjust, you know. And then when the white light's on, you try to read real fast the labels of what these colorful minerals are. And then pretty soon the ultraviolet light goes back on, and it's kind of a pain. And so what I did was I leave the ultraviolet light on all the time, and then I put the labels in fluorescent paper, so you can read them in the fluorescent light. And it makes a much prettier exhibit for the people to see. Okay, the next part of the museum then is the mineral section. We have 7 cases of minerals. I tried to break it down to the various mineral groups. So we do have native minerals, silicates, etc., the basic groups of minerals. And once again, tried to pick out some colorful minerals, some unusual minerals that people would enjoy seeing and reading just a little bit about. We've tried to keep the labels fairly simple and easy to read. I know that people visit museums, they don't spend very much time reading. So we tried to make it enjoyable and just give them enough information that it would be educational and informative, but not boring. In the mineral section, on the wall, as I mentioned, the dinosaur theme goes around the museum, and one of the popular photographic displays that people find of interest is the Triceratops skull that we excavated in 1992. And what I have done is created a sequence of photographs representing the 24 days that it took to dig the skeleton, the skeletal skull out of the ground. So people are interested in reading about the sequence and watching it unfold in the ground and putting the plaster on it and tipping it over and plastering the other side and getting the heavy equipment in to lift it out, and then finally it going down the highway to its new home in the Dakota Dinosaur Museum. So the one on the right shows the skull, Triceratops skull, at about day 13 of the dig. And if you look at the sequence of photographs, you'll see that this skull was totally buried. There was nothing exposed. And so people say, well, how did you know it was there? Well, there were some other bones of the skeleton sticking out. And they were not in very good shape, but we began to dig back in the hill to see if there were better bones back in the hill. And on the second day, we uncovered, it was laying on its side here, and we uncovered the horn right here. Okay, well, it happened to be a Friday. Everybody wanted to quit and go home. And so we had to wait till Monday to come back and see what was really there. So we began to dig. We could see that the whole side of the skeleton was there, but that still doesn't mean it was a good skull. A lot of times we get squish skulls or just partials and that type of thing. But it wasn't until day 13 that we knew that we had a complete skull. And then it was not until probably about day 17 or 18 in here, that we dug all the way around it and underneath to know that the skull was not damaged in any way. It was not squished or anything. So we had an absolutely perfect skull, undistorted, and is probably one of the 10 best Triceratops skulls in the world. Right now it is back in our laboratory with the plaster still on it, as shown in this photograph here just before we got ready to move it. Sometime here in the near future we'll be taking the plaster off. We put the plaster on it because otherwise it would all fall apart. Even though it's there, it's highly fractured. It's been in the ground 65 million years. You've had earthquakes. You've had the earth shifting and everything. So it is cracked. So we have to put the plaster on it to hold it in place. And then in the laboratory, we take the plaster off a little bit at a time, clean it and glue that section so it's locked into place, and then we go to the next section. We just keep doing it, and that way it holds it all together as you prepare it. So this is a very interesting exhibit. They like to see the sequence and to read about the 24 days it took to get the skull out of the ground. Then they can go back in the laboratory and see the end result. The exhibit you're looking at here is, the reason I want to mention it is because it is sponsored by the Badlands Rock and Gem Club here of Dickinson. Most communities do have their own rock and mineral clubs, and so we have our own here, and we wanted to include them in the museum. And so we provided one display case, and they could select whatever specimens they wanted to put on display to represent their club and the people that have collected in the clubs. And as most rock and mineral clubs, they're interested in silicate minerals and the cutting and polishing and making jewelry, and so a lot of that is here. But what we've tried to do is to show what the mineral looked like in the rough and then what it looks like after it's cut and polished. And so I think it makes an excellent exhibit for people to see, and also helps to advertise our local rock and mineral club. The next three cases are modern seashells. And people say, gee, what do you put modern seashells on display in North Dakota for? But once again, most people here, a lot of them have never been to the ocean. They have not seen all the wonderful seashells that you can see in California and Florida and various places around the world. And so I just wanted to put a few nice shells on exhibit. Years ago I was able to acquire this giant clam. It's called a man-eating clam, and it doesn't eat people, but the two shells close together and trap your leg, and then the divers can't get back to the surface and they drown. So it was labeled a man-eating clam. The children particularly are very impressed with such a large seashell. They've never seen anything like that before. So once again, a very nice exhibit that people really enjoy, and we will be upgrading this and providing some nicer seashells here for next year. My wife and I just came back from Denver. We purchased a great many new mineral specimens, and so probably over 50% of the displays will be new for next year for the people that came this year. They'll want to come back and see it again. So we are upgrading and constantly collecting more material, the donations and the purchase of material to improve the quality of the museum. The next exhibit represents invertebrate fossils. These are fossils without a backbone. So it's the clams and the snails and the corals and all those types of creatures. Many of them live in the ocean or in some type of water environment. So once again, we have taken each category of the invertebrates and created a case for them. And so we have the corals here, and the gastropods or snails over here, and the brachiopods, and various exhibits of the invertebrates. Once again, it's a very small sample of the total invertebrate collection, but it's a representative sample and allows people, once again, with the cards to learn a little bit about each major group of the invertebrate fossils. Still in the invertebrate section, I want to point out that what we have done is taken some nice specimens, such as this cephalopod plate here that has several of these squid-like animals on it. People look at this and they think, boy, that's really pretty. Well, we have them for sale in our gift shop here in the museum. And with the proper lighting on it and showing it just right, people then want to go to the gift shop and at least buy smaller specimens of this same type of seashell. So we're trying to emphasize some of the things that we have in the gift shop, create a little larger display out here, but maybe have a $1, $2, $3 item that the children can go and purchase in the gift shop, and it's something that they saw in the museum. Well, here in the last case on the mezzanine, we have an exhibit of trilobites and various miscellaneous items such as shrimp and insects, and also included some amber, because amber has become very popular after the Jurassic Park movie. And so we have some amber here, and some of the amber has insects in it. These amber pieces were not of the dinosaur area. They're probably about 30 million years old. But we do have over on the lower level some amber that we do find as we're excavating dinosaur bones. We find a lot of charcoal and some amber. And so it leads us to believe that, for example, the Triceratops probably, in this area 65 million years ago, was like the Mississippi Delta today. It's subtropical, a lot of stream tributaries spreading out right near sea level, and so the dinosaurs had a lot of vegetation to eat. But what happens every once in a while, those swamps dry out, a drought. They're down there looking for vegetation, and a fire develops. They're trapped. They don't like to swim, or they can't swim very well. And so they get trapped and they die. And so in among the dinosaur bones, you find the charcoal from the burnt wood, and you find the amber, because amber is fossilized tree sap. And as a tree burns, it's hurting, it's given off its ooze, and that becomes the fossilized amber. So we do find the amber in among the dinosaur bones. We're now down on the lower level off of the mezzanine. We're out of the rocks and minerals and invertebrates section and now getting down into the vertebrates. The first cases that you will see represent the older time periods of Mississippian, Pennsylvanian, Permian, Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous material. This is not our strong point in this museum, so we only have a few cases, although we are going to be upgrading them a lot for next year. But we do have a juvenile Dimetrodon. We have a leaf in here called Glossopteris. Well, most people walk right past it. It's not very impressive, a Glossopteris leaf. But this was the leaf that started the idea of continental drift theory. They found this leaf in Africa and South America and Antarctica and all the southern continents, and they found the same leaf in all of them. So they decided that all of those continents had to have been joined at one time for that leaf to have spread to all those continents. Well, after that, of course, we found many fossils and different evidences for continental drift theory. But this little Glossopteris leaf started all of the idea of continental drift theory. We have some Triassic period here. We've got some Triassic wood on display from the petrified forest of Arizona, and we'll be putting some nice new specimens on display there for next year. We have a small crocodile that is of Jurassic period, and then also a little one that I like is called Compsognathus. Most people never heard of Compsognathus. It's just this is full scale. It's a little chicken, looked like. Okay. Well, for people who went to Jurassic Park movie, they didn't mention this. But if you read the book Jurassic Park, they talk about Compy, C-O-M-P-Y, abbreviation for Compsognathus. These little chicken-sized dinosaurs were meat eaters, vicious, and they ran down and attacked this girl on the beach and bit her and all of that. Well, this is the Compy dinosaur that was in the Jurassic Park book. It's in a limestone from Bavaria, and there are very few in existence. This is a cast, but it shows you the size of the Compy dinosaur, and so I think it's an interesting display. We also have some dinosaur bone here cut so you can see what the inside of the dinosaur bone looks like. You can actually see the pores and spaces in there. This is from some Jurassic dinosaur bone from Utah. Also some gastroliths, some stomach stones. Some of the dinosaurs had stones in their stomach. You know, as I said before, the dinosaurs could not grind their food, and so they had to swallow it, and they ended up using these stomach stones or gastroliths to grind the food down in their stomach. So some of those are on display. And then finally here we have an original exhibit. It is a dinosaur egg nest. The eggs themselves are a cast that was collected in Mongolia in the 1920s, one of the first dinosaur egg nests ever found. And you can see those in several museums. But what we did is we had a sculptor make 9 baby dinosaurs as if they were hatching out of these eggs. So it's a one-of-a-kind exhibit. It's the only one you'll see. And it's interesting to have people come and look at this exhibit. Of course, we designed it for the children. They get a big kick out of this exhibit. But when the adults stand there and look at this, there's two reactions. How could anything love something that ugly? You know, this is ugly. You know. And then the other people come up and say, "Oh, aren't those the most darling little babies you ever saw?" You know. So I guess it all depends on whether you're the mother type or not. But you get two strong reactions. There's no in between. They either love it or they don't. But it is an original exhibit. One of the popular parts of the museum is our laboratory. It is a working laboratory. So we do clean the bones and prepare them here. It is basically a paleontological laboratory. We do not have the equipment for polishing rocks or cutting rocks and things like that, but all the drills and all the equipment necessary for preparing dinosaur bones. So in the background here we have the Triceratops skull, still in its plaster cast. This was collected in 1992. It took us 24 days to dig it out of the ground. It weighs approximately 2,500 pounds, so about the weight of an automobile. It took a four-wheel drive tractor with a huge hydraulics to lift it up and to carry it off the hill and get it down and put it on a flatbed trailer. It does have about 500 pounds of plaster on it. We spent several days, 8 hours a day, doing nothing but plastering to get enough on it to hold it together. And we tried to get all the dirt off of it as possible so that you would see the actual shape of the skull, even though the plaster is on there. Triceratops has three horns. The two over the eyes are the brow horns, the one on the nose is the nasal horn. So you can even see the indentation where the nasal cavity where he breathes. The eye socket is visible. And then, of course, Triceratops had a frill on the back of its head. And so that's all there in a nice curving arch, which helped protect the back of the neck so T-Rex couldn't come in there and grab him by the neck and kill him. And also the frill was probably a heat regulator. There's a lot of grooves on the frill as well as in the skull, and those probably allowed blood vessels to flow and allowed a heat exchange mechanism. What we've been working on this summer are the vertebrae here in the foreground of the Edmontosaurus dinosaur. There are a lot of vertebrae in Edmontosaurus. The one that we have out here in the sand will be about 40 feet long. So these only represent some of the vertebrae. And at present, I'm working on back here in the background a cast that has 12 tail vertebrae in it. And so when those come out, they will go over here and be added to the column of vertebrae. Once this is all done, it will be taken and put into the exhibit with the existing dinosaur, and then we'll go on to working on something else. The big black machine in the background, can barely see the name on it there, but it's called Big Mac, which I think is kind of interesting because McDonald's is just two doors down the street here, and so I tell everybody that we have the biggest Mac on the block. But it is a dirt cleaning dust arrestor. And so when we're cleaning bones and the dust is going everywhere, it sucks it up in there and keeps the environment clean in the laboratory. And just for fun over here, we try to add a little bit of humor to the museum. And so one of the art students at the university made this, what he calls an alligator. And they donated it to the museum, so we put it in there. I put a label on it that was my overworked lab assistant, and he's gone berserk. And so the kids really enjoy that little humorous touch. Okay, now we're in the section of the museum called the Hell Creek Formation. The last 7 years I've been excavating dinosaurs in the Hell Creek Formation in North Dakota and Montana, so that the Triceratops, the Edmontosaurus, many other dinosaurs come from the Hell Creek Formation. It's the very last of the dinosaurs. So every day that we're out in the field collecting, we can see the contact line where the dinosaurs become extinct. It's a color change in the beds. It's called the KT contact. K is European for Cretaceous. and the T stands for tertiary. So it's the Cretaceous tertiary boundary, and it's the end of the dinosaurs. So for example, our Triceratops skeleton over there was found 20 feet below the KT contact. That means it was one of the last dinosaurs to be in existence. The Edmontosaurus was found about 80 feet below the contact, so it may be several 100,000 years before the dinosaurs became extinct. But when you look at 225 million to 65 million, a few 100,000 years is the end of the dinosaurs. It's all relative. But this section down here, what we're trying to do is mainly show real bones and real leaf imprints and everything that we find in the Hill Creek. Sure, everybody's interested in dinosaurs, but there are also alligators and crocodiles. Obviously, everything else lived at that time too, and the turtles, and of course all the plant vegetation, what the dinosaurs ate. And so that's all represented in this Hill Creek section portion of the museum. So right here we have two cases with fossil leaf imprints. And as I put on one of the labels here, this is what the dinosaurs ate. This was their food. You know, so you're not just looking at a fossil leaf. This is what the dinosaurs actually consumed. And so we see all the palm fronds, or indicating a lush vegetation. The ginkgo leaves are always of interest. They're kind of a different shape, and I know my students out in the field, I take my university students out there, they're my field crew. They're always looking for ginkgo leaves. You can find 100 other leaves and only one ginkgo, so they're kind of rare and interesting to find. We have fossilized pine cones that just look like a pine cone. They've hardly unchanged. And various types of seeds and all of that. So that is down in this section. We have some real bones of Edmontosaurus and Triceratops and some of the other dinosaurs in here. And then over along the wall, we have the alligators and the crocodiles and the turtles and the little mammals. The mammals were just evolving as the dinosaurs became extinct. And they were about the size of a shrew. So we show a photograph over here of a little shrew about this long. The bones are very delicate and rare, and so mainly the only thing we find are the teeth. And we do have the teeth of at least 3 different mammals that lived right along with the Triceratops, but very, very small. There's also some amber on display. And also fish, lots of fish, of course, in the streams. And some of those are very, very similar to the ones today. The garfish. Okay. Can hardly tell it from the gar today after 65 million years. It's one of these types of organisms that apparently was very satisfied with the way it was and didn't need to change. And so we have some gar on display, 65 million years old, and then also amia, which is a bowfin fish, hardly unchanged from the ones of today. So all of that can be seen. We also have some ornithomimus, some theropods over here. We got some T-Rex teeth that you can see, and I have an exhibit that shows the whole tooth, and then you can see they're hollow inside, and so they end up getting busted. And so then one of them is a partial tooth, and then the way we usually find them is in a vial with about 200 pieces. Okay? So you just don't walk out there and here's a beautiful tooth, pick it up and dust it off and put it in the museum. It requires many, many hours of collecting and reconstruction to get most of these exhibits the way they are. The Triceratops skeleton, for example, as I said, took 2 summers to excavate. It also, we have invested 1,200 hours in preparation, and it's still not totally done yet. So many of these exhibits take thousands of hours before it's ready for the public to see. Right here we have the Thescelosaurus dinosaur that I was talking about, the 4th best collection probably in the world. We have much of the vertebral column, the hind feet, the hip, some ribs, and a little jaw with little tiny teeth in it. So as opposed to the average person looking at it, it may not look too impressive, but scientifically it's very valuable. One other thing I want to point out in this Hell Creek exhibit, we have one whole display case devoted to one bone. So it should trigger you in that this is pretty important. people do have to read the literature to see what it is because they don't know what it is, but it's the back of the skull. This is the ball joint that goes into the first vertebrae so the Triceratops can turn its head. Okay. So all of this is actually a part of the skull and fits into the back of the skull, and then the first vertebrae is concave and it can rotate. This occipital process, we find lots of these round balls out in the Hill Creek Formation. They're very hard, they're very resistant. You know, we found as many as 10 or 12 per square mile. So you know all those Triceratops are out there. But once it becomes exposed on the surface with weathering, the rest of it all busts up and is gone. This one is absolutely complete, undistorted, and it only exists that way because we found it buried. And we were excavating and happened to find this. One of the researchers spent about 4 hours last year photographing this one bone and is going to publish a paper on it. He has some material that has really good interior quality. Mine is good on the outside, and he's going to combine the two together and publish a paper. When you design a museum, you're always trying to think about what is going to be successful and what isn't. And of course, my wife and myself traveled and visited 25 museums and got all the good ideas, talked to the people who had built those museums, asked them what they would do differently. So we tried to incorporate all the good things into this museum that they suggested and tried to eliminate all the bad things. Sometimes you end up with surprises. We kind of, as an afterthought, put a geologic map of North Dakota on the wall. Great big map, shows all the geologic formations and their ages. It's one of the most popular things. People will stand there. Of course, people from North Dakota try to pick out their farm or ranch and how old is the rock there and all that. It's a very popular exhibit. Also on the wall, we have part of a pteranodon, the flying reptile. This is not a dinosaur, but a flying reptile. And as the literature points out, this is a cast of one that you can see, the real one, in Smithsonian. Okay. Smithsonian made a cast, and they donated that cast to an auction. And so I just bid on it until I got it. And so now it's on the wall for people to see. The original can be seen in Smithsonian. So it is a unique piece. It's very nice. They did a very nice job on it. And then finally on the wall here, we have a metal sculpture of Velociraptor. The Velociraptor is the one that's mentioned in Jurassic Park, and it's the same family as Dromaeosaurus over here. But the reason I want to mention this is another donation to the museum. We had some of this stuff on display over here in the Yoka Museum for the last several years. A person came through, thought this was really wonderful, and he knew we were going to build a new museum, and so he wanted to contribute some of his artwork to the museum. And so he designed this himself and built it, made it, and donated it to the museum. And so we have this metal sculpture of Velociraptor. Okay, and then getting down towards the end of the museum here, we have the mammals. So we have gone from 300 million over here in the Mississippi and Pennsylvania period to the 65 million year old Hell Creek Formation. Now we're getting into basically 32 million year old Oligocene material that we find right here near Dickinson, only about 10 to 15 miles away. Much of this stuff was collected. So these are the mammals. The dinosaurs are extinct now, and all we have are the mammals. So for example, here we have a turtle or giant tortoise that lived about 32 million years ago, along with the rhinoceros and the camel and all the different types of mammals that were in here. This is a very popular display. Of course, this is a very large tortoise. It is absolutely complete. We caught it just eroding out of the ground before a single piece was missing. So you can look through the inside of it there, and in excavating the inside, we come up with all these bones. So we have leg bones and toe bones and everything. No skull. There's only about one skull in 1,000 that I guess that are ever found with a turtle. They always seem to be missing, and we don't have the skull. But very nice exhibit people enjoy. And then we have a little baby one down here that they can see what it looks like in smaller scale. We also have some fossil fish, particularly of the Green River Formation in Wyoming, some giant shark's teeth, the great white shark, and even some fish that come here from North Dakota. In the background, we have skulls of a number of different animals of the Oligocene period, mainly the Oreodont, the Leptomyrix, or little deer-like animal, Mesohippus. People are always interested in the horse because we have horses today, and as the horse evolved, it got bigger and bigger. Well, back about 32 million years ago, the horse was the size of a collie. Okay? And we do have some jaws and a skull over here so they can see how small the horse was 30 million years ago. We also have an exhibit of mammoth teeth, woolly mammoth, and mastodon teeth. Some of those have been recent donations to the museum. And then finally, the cats back there, the saber-toothed cats. Now, the big one is the one that you see out in California in the La Brea tar pits, Smilodon. But we also had 3 saber-toothed cats right here in Stark County around Dickinson 30 million years ago. And they are on display down on the lower part of the case. A lot smaller cat, a lot longer ago, but similar family. And then also, of course, here in the mammal exhibit, we have our 2 big skeletons. The first one is a rhinoceros called Subharachodon. I spent 3 summers at an excavation site. All told, we got about 900 bones, and of that we were able to put those bones together to make a complete skeleton. Some of these scientists around the country tell me that this is the finest rhinoceros skeleton in existence that's unmounted. There are quite a few that are mounted, but once you mount them, you can't cast them, you can't do much with them. This one, you can still make a cast of every bone. If somebody wants to come in and do research on it, we can pull the bone out, they can study it, we put the bone back in place. So it still has its educational and research value, and yet the public can see every single bone, right down to every little toe bone is there. So this is a very nice exhibit for the museum, but it did take some 2,100 hours to prepare the bones. They're very fragile. The rock is very hard, so it's very time consuming. Then we use a little vegetation here as a time gap, and down here at the end then we have our bison, which is about 10,000 years old. This is an extinct bison. This one lived from 5,000 to about 11,000 years ago and had a much bigger horn span than the ones that we have today. So this is Bison antiquus occidentalis. It was also discovered just a few miles from town here. An excavation crew, they were building a power substation. They had big, heavy equipment, and they were taken off the top of this hill. They got down 10 feet and scraped across the top of the skeleton. So they stopped their work, and at that time I was down in Colorado on vacation. I got a call that this skeleton had been found close to town. So I rushed back, got back the next day, looked at it. The construction crew says, we'll give you 5 days to get it out of the ground. Then we got to start work again. And so we worked practically around the clock for 5 days to get this skeleton out of the ground, because normally it would take a month to excavate something like this. But we were very happy that they were willing to wait 5 days and not just bulldoze it and destroy it, because now 40,000 people have come and seen it this summer, and there will be many thousands more over the years. And if people are just willing to wait a few days, we can get it out of the ground and get it on display forever. So I think it really contributes to our mammal exhibit. Okay, and then finally here in the Dakota Dinosaur Museum, we have the Children's Corner. This is designed for particularly smaller children that might get tired of looking at the exhibits, and maybe they're really not tall enough to read everything or not of the reading age yet. They get a little impatient. So we have a table here that they can come and sit down and look at children's dinosaur books, and they just sit down and page through those by the hour and to get somebody to come and read to them. Well, as I mentioned, we had some surprises with the museum. One of the surprises was, for me anyway, was the number of parents that were willing to come and sit down with their children and spend an hour or two sitting at this table reading dinosaur books to their children. And what they had done is they had decided to devote the day to their children, whatever they wanted to do. The child wanted to learn about dinosaurs, and so the parents will sit down and read the books to them. And I thought that was really surprising. Most of the time I would have thought the parents would say, come on, let's go and get out of here. So it's been a very, very successful part of the museum. Also, as a children's corner, what we've tried to do is to put the miniature dinosaurs in here because I think the kids can relate to the smaller things a little better than they can a great big dinosaur maybe. These miniatures were what the sculptor made before he made the big dinosaurs. So he makes these like this to a certain scale, colors it in, gets the final approval before the full scale ones are made. And so we went ahead and purchased these and put them in the children's section. And then rather than having fancy photographs on the walls, we've put dinosaur posters and things that the kids could relate to. They can go up to this one and they can read about the individual dinosaurs, and then they can also purchase these in the gift shop. So this has been a very successful part of the museum. And if you ask the kids what they enjoyed most, you try to ask a lot of people and get opinions of the museum. You would think they would say the big dinosaurs. They love the big dinosaurs. But in reality, the two things that impress them the most is the fluorescent mineral display, and the other one is this model over here. As a last minute thought, I put the model on display that I used to create the museum. Okay, so they come over here and they look at this, and you get two children talking to each other, and they'll say, we're right here, and that's over there. And they begin putting the museum together with this model, and it has become a very, very popular exhibit. So I'm glad I put it on display. So I think overall we have a really nice museum here that represents all the time continuum, all the different aspects of earth science, and I hope everybody will come, and I hope you enjoyed the visit.
Hello, I'm Paula Anderson. I'm the operations manager at the Dakota Dinosaur Museum. We offer many educational experiences here at the Dinosaur Museum. We do schedule school groups throughout the school year. With the school groups, we do provide tours for the students. We also provide educational packets where they can bring in questions and go around to each of the cases and answer these questions. We schedule other groups besides school groups. We schedule anything from Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, 4-H groups to birthday parties. So our number one priority is education.